All right, people are hopping on and they can still continue to do so. We will get started since it is just a minute or two after noon. Welcome to our back to school safety webinar with Safe Kids from Fargo-Moorhead Sanford Children's here. One second, I'm having some slide difficulties here. There we go. My name is Mary Lizakowski, and I'm a Coalition Health Director with Foundation for a Healthy North Dakota. It is a new nonprofit established in 2022 with a small team. Our mission is to promote health and wellness by working at the community level across North Dakota. We are building a statewide coalition to allow local communities to collaborate and work together on common initiatives. And by joining the coalition, members will be the first to know about educational opportunities such as this, the latest on relevant public health information, legislative updates, and access to digital advocacy resources and toolkits. Just some housekeeping things to let you know about. Webinar attendees will be automatically muted for the presentation. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A box, and we will be monitoring as the questions come in. We will be recording this presentation and we'll leave time to address any questions you may have along the way. After the presentation, a link of the recording will be sent out along with an evaluation survey to complete. It is my pleasure to introduce our speakers today. Kailyn Allen, she is a community life educator with Safe Kids Fargo-Moorhead. She has a master's in education with a background in teaching, caregiving, and culinary arts. Kailyn lives in Moorhead, Minnesota, where all three of her children are attending MSUM. Next is Teresa Haider. She is an outreach educator and child passenger safety tech for Sanford Children and Safe Kids Fargo-Moorhead. She holds a BS in early childhood family science and a master's certification in gerontology from NDSU. Prior to Safe Kids, she was a parent educator at Cass County Extension. She has experience working with seniors programming activities, preschool education, early childhood screening, and family home visiting in the Moorhead Public Schools. Teresa retired from the North Dakota Air National Guard, U.S. Air Force, where she served as a clinical medical technician. She is a lifetime resident of Fargo, North Dakota, and has one grown daughter who is a registered nurse. So thank you both for being here, and I will stop sharing and turn it over to Kailyn to start the presentation.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I am excited to be here today, and I will get us started. Let's see here, sharing my screen. So we're going to talk first a little bit about getting to school safely, and don't by any means mistake, I also mean we're hoping to get them safely. So getting home to and from school safely is what we're talking about in this little presentation here. Before I get us completely started, I want you to think back to when you were in that elementary stage. So from preschool up till middle school, what do you see if you are looking at this picture through the eyes of a child? Anybody can kind of weigh in through their Q&A. When I look at this, or if you want to raise your hand and unmute, that also works too. Let's see, my grid went away again. So I'm looking at this and I'm seeing, things that maybe look like playground equipment. Some of you are mentioning lots of space here, and not certain walkways in some places. When you look over here, there isn't really much of a crosswalk. So things can be either really exciting for little ones or they can be overwhelming. And that's part of what we as adults have as our responsibility to make sure that we're educating our kids how to get around safely when we have so many vehicles on the road. And some of our streets do look like this. What about as an adult when you're looking here? Hopefully you're picking out and seeing those things that I mentioned where there aren't always crosswalks that you can easily see visibly. We can see the traffic lights and we understand and know what they mean. And that's important as well to keep in mind that these were things that were explicitly trained for us as drivers, and children don't always have that training. So that's something that's really important. For my second little quiz here, I have distracted driving, and I'm asking which one of these people is more distracted. So when you look at this picture, hopefully we're all aware that texting and driving is very much a distracted driving behavior and it's unsafe. But drowsy driving is also something that we have to be mindful of as well. It is a form of distracted driving. One of the things that the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has found is that drowsy driving has been responsible for tens of thousands of crashes. And when we compare it to driving under the influence of alcohol, drowsy driving is just at 21%, and alcohol is 30% of fatal crashes. So they're actually really kind of close when you think about it. And that's a terrifying statistic that we want to make sure we are aware of. One thing to think of is slow down. That's part of what one thing that I'll repeat is slow down and give yourself that time that you need to recover if you are drowsy or if you are distracted, you're getting an important text. Slow down and take the time you need to pull over and deal with whatever distraction is there. And you may actually end up saving a life. Okay, so a little bit of some facts here. This is from Safe Kids US Worldwide, and this is taking place in 2016. This graphic that I wanted to share with you, looking at how many teen pedestrians there were in 2016. That's kind of that is a lot, but this one here is what really I wanted us to look at is that there's an increase in the pedestrian rate for 12 to 19-year-olds. And I think that might be a little bit surprising for some of us. A lot of times when we think of back to school safety, we're thinking of the littles. And the truth is we have to be thinking of kids of all ages when we're talking about back to school safety. So in 2015, though teens ages 15 to 19 made up 26% of all children, so from 0 to 19, they actually made up half of the pedestrian fatalities. So they're a much more vulnerable group than we tend to think of. We also are going to talk a little bit about distracted walking. So we looked at distracted drivers. We know what that looks like. In a lot of ways, it might be playing with the radio. It might be trying to soothe someone in the back seat. But it might also be that drowsy driving that we mentioned as well. But distracted walking is also on the rise, and that is true of people of all ages. I've seen adults doing the same behaviors where they're walking with their phone in their hand instead of looking around them. And what that can end up meaning is you may have a distracted driver at the wheel who isn't fully coming to a full stop at the crosswalk, and a distracted walker who isn't fully making eye contact with that driver and making sure, and they know, oh, it's my turn to go, and there we have a catastrophe. Other things that they talked about noticing was unsafe drop-offs and pickups, and that behavior was observed in nearly 1 in 3 drivers, which is a huge number of people who are in that world of drop-offs and pickups, and who are actually part of the problem. So don't be part of the problem when you are dropping off or picking up in a vehicle. Make sure that you're following those rules of the school zone and keeping kids safe as well. All right, we're going to keep on going here. What I wanted us to see in that last one, as we were looking at some of these statistics here, is that we also can see that there are some improvements. So from that point until 2018, some of the fatality injuries have gone down. But what is important again to look at is every hour, about 2 children age 19 and under are injured or killed after being struck by a vehicle while walking. The risk of non-fatal injury increases by 74% if that person is between the ages of 12 and 14. Again, these are some numbers that might be a little bit surprising. A lot of times, like I said, we're thinking of those little kids that are hard to see over the top of a vehicle that's really big, but the biggest risk right now is teenagers. So things that we want to make sure we're teaching is to, when you're crossing the street, do it at a designated crosswalk, which we can see there are some problems if the crosswalk isn't visible. But we want to teach them what a crosswalk looks like and where are the safe places to cross, and then to look left, right, and then left again. And it's actually important to remind your teenagers of that as well, because and then also to model that as caregivers. This one is talking about how children under the age of 10 they're developmentally different. So they have a difficult time judging the speed of cars coming at them until they are about the age of 10, and some kids maybe need a little bit more time. So if your child is under the age of 10, they should be crossing with an adult. Every child is different, of course, but that's a good age to kind of measure when it's safe for them to be crossing by themselves. And then again, with these statistics of the ages between 12 and 14, we still need to be giving our children those not only reminders, but that good modeling, I will say. So in school zone driving, again, those warnings to make sure that you're following not only the rules of the road, but the rules of the school zone as well. Unintentional pedestrian injuries are the 5th leading cause of injury-related deaths in the United States for children ages 5 to 19. And these are all preventable things that we don't necessarily have to have these tragedies be happening. Teenagers, again, are now at the greatest risk. They have a death rate twice that of younger children and account for half of all pedestrian deaths. So I'm going to ask you again to in the little chat box or in the Q&A, why do you think that is exactly? Why do you think that that age group is at a much higher risk than other children? I will look here and see what we have to say. I'll give you a minute here to think about that. Okay.
And we'll have the attendees use the Q&A box to put their
Perfect
answers in.
Perfect. Q&A, I see you raise your hand. It's a long cloud. Yep. Okay. So one of the things is, again, our teenagers a lot of times are distracted, and then the people who are driving are also a lot of times distracted driving. So when we have that meetup of that cataclysm of a distracted walker and a distracted driver, a lot of times we're going to end up with that catastrophe of a collision. Some new research, we've all seen the teenagers texting and driving. They get kind of notoriously known for wearing headphones or not really looking where they're walking and looking down at their phones. But we've also noted that Drivers who are dropping off or picking up students, again, 1 in 3 drivers are doing something unsafe. They're either speeding through or driving while on the phone. Double parking in a school zone is really dangerous because a lot of times that means the kids can't see if there's another car coming or a bus. And then a lot of school zones need upgrades. That is also a part of this picture, is that some crosswalks are missing 3 out of 10 crossings, and appropriate speed limits may not be posted. So this is actually sort of a community-based problem that has distracted drivers, distracted walkers, and then some infrastructure changes that we can look at as a community together to do better, for sure. Again, I'm going to kind of repeat myself with some of these important points, but you definitely want to teach your children to make eye contact with the driver. So make sure that the driver is paying attention by making that eye contact before you cross the street, and make sure that everybody who is there on that street knows you're about to cross. And then again, it's a look left, look right, and then look left again, whether you are a preschooler or 19 years old. That's what we want to see. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit and look at some of the equipment that we might use when we're going back to school. Not everybody is driving or walking. Sometimes it's bicycles and scooters and every good thing. These are really healthy ways of getting around, and I know I personally love my bicycle, but we want to make sure that bikes fit the child, first of all. So don't try to buy a bike that your child will grow into. You can see here what a good fit kind of looks like with this little peanut here who's riding, and this one here. They can put their feet on the ground, and that's what you want to look for a bike for your child, is that they can their feet can firmly be on the ground and they're able to get up on that bike without losing their balance. And that's an important safety feature to make sure. So bring your child with you if you're picking out a bike. If that was meant to be a surprise, the surprise can be we're going to pick out a bike instead of just the bike itself, but it is important that we have the right size for that child. This one too, I know I've said it before, but your kids learn a lot more from you than you think. Even if you think they learn a lot from you, it's actually a lot more. And that is true of our teenagers as well. They're really watching you and looking at you to model good behavior. So we have to do those things that we want them to do. Because with children, a lot of times it's very much, I'm going to do what I see you doing, not what I hear you saying to do. So for sure, wear a helmet, even if you never wore a helmet when you were a kid. And a lot of us are in that boat. So wear your helmet and make sure your bike actually fits you. And then I have a little quick video here. I'm going to try to play here for you. We'll get our helmet bike safe test going. And this is just a really fast video here that'll show you how to fit a helmet. All right, so I'm gonna escape out of that and share screen to present. And alrighty, I'll move this out of the way. There we go. So wearing the helmet is the single most effective safety device available to reduce head injury and death from bicycle crashes. I will say that again because it's very important. You want to make sure your child has the right size of helmet. So when they were showing opening the jaw and the V on the ears, that was a really good video that there is a link to that you can look at again if you need to. But you want to make sure that they're wearing it every time. So if they're just going to go out and ride around in your driveway, tell them to put their helmet on. It becomes more of a habit that way when it's something that you do every time. And then another little tip is to let your children pick out their own helmets so that they're more likely to actually wear them every ride. If you get to pick out the color and you think it looks really cool, even adults are more likely to wear something that they picked out themselves and that they enjoy and think is cool. So make sure your helmet fits and make sure your child knows how to fit it properly. This is again that link to that video if you want to check that out again. And then I've written out to all of the checks that we're making to make sure that that helmet is fitting properly. Okay, so this is important because every hour, nearly 50 children visit emergency departments with an injury related to bikes, scooters, skates, or skateboards. So all of the many wonderful ways that we can get to school can also really hurt us. And we have to be careful to make sure that we have the proper equipment. We found about 11% of bicycle injuries can include concussions or internal injuries and fractures. 19% of hospital admissions for scooter injuries in 2015 were actually because of a head injury for those scooters. Sometimes they can actually go over the top if they're going too fast and come to a really fast stop. So you really want a helmet if you're using a bike or a scooter. Here's our little guy with his helmet on, and he clearly picked that out because he's really proud of it. And then one of the things that I have said that I promised I would repeat is that almost 40% of parents who have children ages 5 to 14 say their child doesn't always wear a helmet. And part of that is because the parents aren't wearing the helmet. So when you look at the statistics, when a parent always wears the helmet, it's 86% of the time that the child is going to wear the helmet. So maybe they have one or two times that they're taking it off because their friends aren't wearing it, but the majority of the time they're complying because they see their parent doing it. Parents who don't wear helmets, it goes down to 38% of the time that a child will wear their own helmet. So some of the reasons why people don't wear helmets, there are many, but a lot of it is just because it's just something we didn't do when we were kids. So we didn't grow up with that as part of our natural way of riding bike. But that can change. A properly fitted bike helmet is just as effective when riding a scooter, a roller skating, or inline skating. So what's missing from the picture here? I'll let you throw that in the chat. They look like they're having a lot of fun. I see knee pads. I see elbow pads. I love that. Yep. Yep. They're missing their helmets for sure. And they definitely need them because inline skating can be very dangerous. If you've ever asked like a ref in a roller derby game or things like that, definitely roller skates can be dangerous if you don't have the proper equipment. I do recommend with inline skates and roller skates in particular and skateboards that you also invest in the wrist guards and the knee pads and elbow pads. Those falls can be pretty hard and usually they're landing on sidewalk or concrete. So the other thing is to keep in mind skateboarding and longboarding have different helmets. You want to make sure that your child's wearing a Consumer Product Safety Commission certified skateboarding helmet. You can see the difference in the design a little bit. This is the back of the helmet. It'll give some ventilation, but it'll go more towards the back of the head than a typical bike helmet will cover. So it is a little bit different if your child is skateboarding, but again, skateboarding can be really dangerous for the head. So we want to make sure that they're wearing the proper helmet for that. And here I have a perfect example. This bike definitely fits this little tyke. He can get his feet on the ground, so he's not going to lose his balance. He's got his helmet on, and it is the single most effective safety device available to reduce head injury and death from bicycle crashes, and that's also true of scooters and skateboards as well. So other ways that we get to school includes the school bus. And a lot of us may not realize this, but the school bus is actually one of the safest vehicles on the road to be on. Less than 1% of all traffic fatalities involved children in school transportation vehicles. So you can feel comfort in knowing that if you're sending your little one on the bus or your older children on the bus is really safe to drive in. However, it gets a little bit hinky when they're trying to get off of the bus, and that's when things can get a lot more risky and a lot more dangerous. And again, we have we may have some children who are distracted here, but one of the biggest things that I think is important to remember is that the onus for their protection in this case especially is on the drivers. So we want to make sure that drivers understand school bus safety. This one will tell you a little bit about why buses are safer. If you're interested in that, you can look at that one a little bit later. But here is how to stay really safe when you are riding the bus or getting on and off of the bus. You want your child to arrive at the bus stop at least 5 minutes before the bus is scheduled to arrive, so they have time and kind of that cognitive ability to play it safe, and that they're not rushing or running or scooting too fast to try to get to the bus stop. A lot of times when we're rushing, that's when we fall down too. So stay at least 10 feet, which is 5 giant steps away from the curb. Always wait until the bus comes to a complete stop and the bus driver signals for you to board. So the bus driver will signal you on. You don't want to be getting on the bus when the door is barely coming open. You want to wait for that signal. You want to face forward after you find your seat on the bus, and that is important for that bus safety. And then make sure that when you are ready to exit the bus, that the bus has come to a complete stop. And then again, we're going to ask you to look left, right, and left again before you cross the street. And that's a big piece of safety that we want to make sure our bus riders know, and our younger kids know, is to look before they cross. Just because the bus is there doesn't mean that a car won't go driving where they're not supposed to and come into a collision. So if the bus is flashing for drivers, if the bus is flashing yellow lights, that means it's about to stop, and that doesn't mean that you should drive faster. It means that you should slow down and prepare to stop your vehicle. Red lights are going to be when they have the extended stop arms out, which indicates that the bus is going to let children off the bus. So that's when it's extremely important that you are following those rules and stopping behind that stop sign on the arm and waiting until the arm is completely withdrawn and the bus actually begins moving. So the arm is withdrawn and the bus hasn't started moving yet, it's still not your turn. You have to wait until the bus starts moving again. We also may be driving to school, so I wanted to put in a little bit about booster seats, which are super important for anyone who is under the age of 8 or who is 57 inches or I meant to say smaller, shorter, but but booster seats are actually super important, and they help keep the crash forces at the most strongest points on our body, so across our shoulder and across our hip bones. And without that, we can see a lot of really unfortunate internal injuries or submarining where the child just kind of goes down. So we want to make sure that even if there's a little bit of a pushback, which sometimes there is, that we're using that booster seat until your child is tall enough or old enough to be out of it. And a lot of times that is that may be up to the age of 13. What here, I have a question. What might the booster seat and the bike helmet have in common for some children? And here I'm asking you to put in the chat box, what do you think that answer might be? Let's see. Raise your hand. Hi. Okay. Yep. Most important thing for safety is a good one. The other thing that I am seeing is kids sometimes don't want to wear them. They don't want to use them. They might be a little embarrassed and they may be the only one in their friend group who uses them. So finding ways that are creative to make sure that your child can still use that booster seat, maybe putting it in the middle of the seat in the back so that they can slide out when they're done if they're embarrassed about it, or trying to make it so that it isn't embarrassing. It is something that is for safety. It is just like the seatbelt, and it's nothing to feel like different about. But a lot of times with the helmets, that's the same situation where we saw that 86% compliance with helmet use when when the parent is always using it. Part of that is going to be, peer pressure or embarrassment or feeling like they're not quite growing up in the rate that they want to. Like once I'm older, I don't have to wear a helmet, or once I'm older, I don't have to wear a booster seat. But those are things that we want to make sure that we're doing for their safety. So I'm going to switch our kind of focus a little bit and look at just a few words on bullying. Here I have a little chart that talks about the differences between some encounters. We may have a conflict that's a single time, a rude behavior or a mean behavior. Usually what we're looking at though, when you see that, is that it's occasional, it's rare, it might be once or twice. But bullying is something that is repeated and it can be relentless. It's something that has been planned and that is done intentionally to make someone feel bad. We've all made a rude comment before, but most of us have not bullied someone. So there are differences that are important to be aware of. The the other important thing is the bully is blaming the target. That's another important thing to look at, is that that is going to be sometimes internalized and can cause a lot of emotional damage for children who are being bullied. So I want to go to here and when you think about why we might see some of the bullies or reasons for bullying, a lot of students here are saying it's because of how they look, or this is coming from students who are have been asked why they have been bullied. But these statistics here are national. So if we talk a little bit more about our specific area, what are some of the reasons that you have ever, if you've witnessed bullying or your child or young one has experienced it, what are some of those things that will spark something for bullying? I'll give you a moment here to put something in the chat. Questions. Shy. Yep. If a person is shy, for sure, they can be a target. Other issues, and that's actually a really great point to make. Sometimes people are just not as talkative, or they're not as outgoing, and then it can be misperceived as an easy target. Let me see here. Clothes is another one. I've heard a lot of students talk about if they don't have the right clothes, or if they feel like it looks like they have less money. Sometimes they can get picked on or targeted for that. And then race or gender identity are things that we do see in Fargo-Moorhead for sure. So thank you for that. And it does kind of mirror, when you look at it, some of the national numbers, thinking about their identity, how they look, what they're wearing. And a lot of times we may see some racial issues for that as well. So when you are, in that first couple of weeks, or maybe even later on down the road, if you start to notice some of these signs, these are signs of bullying in your child. friendships going by the wayside. So you want to make sure you know who your child's friends are. What are their names? What are their parents' names? Kind of where they are in on the block. And if you're noticing that your child is kind of forgoing friendships, or not hanging out with the same kids anymore, or not hanging out with anyone. If they're hesitating about going to school and you're noticing a lot of things like tummy aches and headaches and those kinds of ailments, it doesn't actually mean that they don't have a stomach ache or a headache. They may very well have those symptoms if they're experiencing bullying, because we do have some of those connections. So if your emotions are constantly being under attack and your cortisol is going way up, you're definitely going to suffer from stomach aches and headaches. So don't feel like your child is lying to avoid school, but maybe question what's the real cause for the frequency of some of those things, and an increase or a decrease in appetite, which I know sounds really hard to measure with especially those older kids. They and at kids as they grow sometimes have this happen, but when you're looking at it as a big picture and seeing kind of a lot of those different issues or a lot of those different signs, you maybe want to have a talk about bullying and see if your child is being targeted. We do have some ways that we can stand up to bullying. One of them is to act with awareness, and that's when you mentioned Mary, about being shy or feeling like a target because you're shy. Act with awareness means, look around. And this is what we're seeing about safety as well out on the street, is teach your children to have their heads up and look around and make sure that they're acting with awareness of their environment. We also have leave in a powerful way, which we'll talk about denying yourself as a target. And that's important to tell children that, it isn't to blame in any way, that if you're being bullied, it's not your fault ever. But there are things that you can do to try to mitigate or limit that a little bit. And one of them is to leave in a powerful way where you say, I don't want to deal with this. Please leave me alone. We often teach our children to, when we're looking at this setting boundaries, we often teach our children boundaries, right? And things they can and can't do. But we also need to make sure we teach them how to set boundaries for themselves. And that is really important as well. So make sure that you're teaching them it's okay to say, no, thank you, I don't want to be touched, or no, thank you, I don't want to have this conversation with you right now. And it is okay to be polite, but it's important to use your voice for sure and to be heard. Protect your feelings can be kind of difficult if you're going through this. You want to make sure that you're reminding your child of the things that they love and the things that mean something to them and that they value, and try to help them remember they have that support, and be persistent. So make sure that if you're not going to stand for bullying one time, you're not going to stand for it ever, and continue to kind of go through that process of acting with awareness, leaving with in a powerful way by asserting yourself, and then setting those personal boundaries and using your voice for sure. And so there I have just if I have any questions, and I will turn things over to Teresa in one moment. And let's see, I'm going to stop sharing. There we go. Okay, so questions.
You want to do questions now, or should we wait?
Or at the end? Yes,
Teresa?
okay.
Okay.
So I will stop sharing and then turn it over to Teresa. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Mute. So I'm unmuted and I will share my other screen, but my screen isn't showing up. Oh, there we go. Thanks, sorry. Now?
I don't see it yet.
Oh, now. Clicking on it, share, there we go. Okay,
And
that
I see it.
should be good. Hi, everybody. I'm Teresa, and I am going to share information with you today about positive parenting for back to school. I've taught positive parenting for lots of years, and it is usually something we're working on with younger kiddos, but I had to rethink it about back to school, and I'm just going to tell everyone today as I share what I'm going to be talking about is whether or not you are a caregiver, a parent, or a professional. So we're looking at how to be positive with children, and the school agers are a little bit older than some of the behavior things we teach about positive parenting, but it's still there and they still need that. So today I'm going to be talking about the positive parenting or caregiving, how to stay connected with kids. I'm going to talk just a tiny bit about the Sanford Fit program, but it's a resource for you that's online. It can be used by parents, teachers, caregivers, professionals, and it's free and it's online, and I'm really happy to be doing some work with that later on this year in outreach. It's built around 4 pillars of health, and they're called recharge, mood, food, and move. And I'm just going kind of fast because I'm going to talk about them later. But I'm also going to chat a little bit about parent involvement and communication with the schools and teachers, and a little bit about routines and homework. And so as we've been doing, go ahead and enter questions or ideas that you have along, and we'll share the questions at the end. But I'm just wondering if anyone has heard of positive parenting or what they know about it, what kinds of ages of children, or if you're a professional or a parent. I always ask that at the beginning of my classes just to get a feel for the crowd that is on there. So if anyone wants to add anything like that for me to know in the chat box, that would be great. And I thought I had sharing everybody. Anything there? Not a, okay, parent and professional, yeah. I figured we'd have a lot that were parents and professionals. So yeah, we can apply it to 2 different places, right? Let's look at a definition. We all need our definitions, don't we? So positive parenting for definition wise is teaching with unconditional love, encouragement, skills, supervision, and patience using positive methods of guidance, modeling positive behavior, boundaries, and consistencies. And that's our definition for working with positive parenting. I've got those highlighted words there for a reason: the teaching, the positive, guidance, we're guiding and teaching, and 2 positive. So it really is positive. We're taking all the negativity out of things. And statistics show we parent the way we were parented unless we make a concerted effort to change some of that. And I know I was not positive in a way, parented, sorry, in a way positive way. It was the no's and the don'ts, and stop doing that or what anything like that. We want to know that positive parenting really is just discipline. And to talk about the word discipline is something that's, I think, is so important. It means to teach. It isn't punishment. That's one thing it isn't. And for the positive part, I really need you to know that we have to get to yes. And that's something new I just ran across in some meeting not that long ago, or reading, I can't remember, but it was get to yes. Get to yes. And that doesn't mean let kids have their way all the time. There still are limits to provide and all that kind of stuff, but we do want to get to yes. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in another slide. So school, how exciting. New school. And I bet a lot of your kids or kids you work with have already been there for a week or so, maybe even more, but everything's new. New teachers, new grade, new classes, new routine, new friends, maybe a new building and new activities. It's so exciting. I mean, I just remember my child going to school the first day and I was so excited for her. I remember going and feeling kind of lots of emotion, maybe being a little bit scared, maybe being a little bit stressed out. So kids can get stressed out about starting school and all those new things. And that in turn can lead to a lot of emotion. So emotion is where it's at when we're wanting to help kids deal with starting new things. I catch up here, excuse me. Um, there might be some rules with our discipline. There might be some modeling. There should be consistency. And we know children learn by doing. And that's where we want to get rid of some of those no's and don'ts. So please think about explaining, teaching, and expectations for kids. Now, if we're talking about emotion and stress, how do your kids handle emotion and stress? Take time to think about that. Are they do they might display mood swings? Emotion may be manifested as change in habits, headaches, clinginess, disengagement, avoiding school-related activities, or difficulty concentrating. So it sounds like it's common to some of the symptoms that are behaviors that Kailyn was talking about with bullying. So look for clues as to how your child handles stress. And then with that, when you see that, you can really work on trying to stay connected with them. Because in these school years now, peer influence goes up. And unfortunately, our parent, or maybe not unfortunately, our parent influence goes down. So that's kind of a break when they get to those school age. The peers are a lot more important. And it's hard to stay connected. So we need to take a special attention and use that with. So how do we stay connected with our kids? I loved putting this bullhorn in here because sometimes when you're not connected, it might be, hey, mom, or even, hey, daughter or son. And what might we be distracted by? Maybe some of this social media stuff up here. So it does take an effort to stay connected. I've listed some of the things and ideas here. Just hanging out, don't really have to be doing anything. It's called downtime. I know a lot of people that are uncomfortable with doing nothing, I've got to say. So there's still some other ways to take care of connecting. Decrease screen time for sure. That doesn't connect us one to the other. It kind of divides us, and we're finding out more about that all the time. Routine, family rituals, family meetings, resist overbooking. I know it's hard. You want your kids to be in, maybe it's a sport, maybe it's the band, maybe it's an extracurricular activity with something else at school. And then you might have your church activities and things like that. So this is going to take an effort by the parent or the professional to get that connection going with kids. I have limit electronics in here twice, but that was on purpose. So resist that electronics and screen time. And that includes anything with a screen. You know, we used to just talk about TVs, but there's a lot more there now. Use open-ended questions with your kids and really avoid the yes/no questions. One of my favorites is checking in at the end of the day. Maybe you're asking questions like, what was your favorite thing today? What was hard for you today? Tell me about a new friend, or tell me about something you learned. So not just how was your day? And we've all fallen into that rut before where we just say, how was your day? Oh, it was good. Okay. Communication done. So take some effort there and take a look at those. I'm going to switch gears just a little bit here now and tell you a little more about the FIT program that Sanford has put out. It's all free and it's all online, and there's so many resources. I just can't stress. I would encourage anyone to go take a look at that website. And this is a short video that is just going to tell you about how FIT works. And let me see, I need to play that. I will also go to the big screen. Okay, so that was just a little summary of it. I might mention also that that those things are all free to print, and just kind of a great thing to, I think, explore. It's built around these 4 pillars, and I'm not going to go really in depth with each of the pillars, but one of them is to recharge. And I don't know, we are a nation that does not get enough rest typically, and the Association of American Academy of Pediatricians, the American Academy of Pediatricians, they recommend children ages 6 to 12 years old, and that's school ages, get 9 to 12 hours of sleep per day. So that's quite a bit. And they have, I mean, AAP, I go with their decisions. They have quite a bit of information behind what they're saying. And we use them quite a bit at Safe Kids. So for recharging, there's also relaxation activities. Breathing exercises is a really great thing to teach kids from a really young age. FIT has lots of those in them, and I just love them. They're good for kids. There's breathing different shapes, and I just think they're great. One of the things I took out of a blog from there was how to relax and recharge with a take a break basket. So I just threw that picture in there so everyone could get an idea of something like that. Let your kid help you make it and say, we need to take breaks. And it's another thing I think that when we think we need a break, that doesn't mean sitting down with your video game on or something on your tablet or something like that with a screen. It means having some interaction physically and with people. Mood is one of the other pillars. I'm going to go a little bit quickly through these, but we need to help children recognize their own moods and their mood shifts. What made me get mad all of a sudden? Let's talk about it. Why are you afraid of that? What do you think you're feeling right now when your fists are balled up or something? And feelings affect our moods. So one thing I have found most valuable to teach children over time and families about their children, and even themselves, feelings are okay. All the feelings are okay all the time. And I hope that you're a home or an agency where feelings are okay. some are comfortable and some may be uncomfortable, but they're okay, even if they're uncomfortable. And we don't want to say the word bad connected with a feeling. Oh, you're having a bad feeling, because feelings aren't good or bad. So we're looking at accepting emotion. And again, I'll just say the FIT program has a lot of activities about labeling emotions and different little posters and things that work for kids. Food is one of the pillars, and the one I want to point out the most here is we know that children need to try a new food 7 times before they're sure whether they like it or not. It's kind of important to remember, even, you know, if it's something they haven't had before, or if we're trying to change our routine and change it up and eat healthier foods, just remember that 7 times rule. Of course, we're looking for nutrition in our food and beverage choices. Definitely reduce sugar. I think there's just sugar in a lot of things and it's hidden. Kids and grown-ups, we need to reduce our sugar. Again, a lot of snack ideas and healthy food choices and activities in the FIT. The last pillar of the FIT program that it's based on is move, move, move. And I was interested in pulling this together because I tried to think like a preschooler, which I taught them for years, and so I hadn't for a long time. How can you move your bodies? Ask your kids, they'll know. So many different ways: walk, run, reach, spin, kick, throw, open, close, wiggle, shake. And I just think that's fun. And talking to them about moving and getting movement in, we don't always want to say we've got to exercise. You know, participating in exercise is only one way to move your body. So make the choices, or make a plan to move throughout the day. And we have all have heard the one where take the steps instead of the elevator, park on the outside of the parking lot. It just adds to your steps. I think everybody, maybe but me, has one of those watches for counting your steps. But these are some other good things, and I took them directly from FIT. Dance crazy while you get dressed. How fun, you know, or while you're cleaning up. I know we're running out of time, Mary. I'm trying to go pretty fast. Take the long way around, so you get the idea. Stretch before you get in bed. Stretch whenever you can. And communication with school, we're moving on out of the FIT there, and I'm just mentioning a few key items for parent involvement. We've got to communicate with our school. Ask, how can parents volunteer in your child's class? Ask them. Teachers are busy, but they do want you to communicate. I have learned that over the years, even though they're so busy. Check with your school to see. Most schools now have a parent portal, and or your teacher might appreciate an email from you. And I don't know, some of them still might appreciate a phone call, but check with your school and your teachers to know that. Please, please, please check the backpacks with your child every day. They can say, no, nothing in my backpack today, mom or dad. Oh, okay. All right. Are you sure? Yeah. No. And then you get hit with it all at once in one day. Yeah, I was supposed to have this project done. Oh, tomorrow. And we need to go, you know, the whole drill. Going out to shop late at night, or I've been through that. Routines is something I hope that kids can expect a lot. Not really too many. I mean, it's not like a ton of routine and a ton of rules. They have been following rules all day at school. And help them decide some of the rules and some of the routines. But if there isn't a choice, don't give them one. So it's not a choice that you're going to bed at 8, but it might be a choice of what your snack is before you go to bed, or what book we read. This is where I said I would mention this again. Remember, get to yes, and that's about the positive parenting. So thinking about successes you've already had around routines, school-age parents, they're not fresh out of the chute, and they have learned quite a bit about their children before these years, and you know your child best, or your child's first teacher. So make a plan for the homework. Where does it fit into the routine? One really quick thing I want to mention here is that think about whether or not your child has digital equity. And this is a thing. And what I mean by that now is that they have the digital resources that they need to be to keep up with everyone else, that they're equal that way, that they're have what they need. There is something I explored, and it's called the Affordable Connectivity Program. I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but Fargo Public Schools website has it. And it is a federal program that was developed, I believe, during COVID. And so whether or not you have access to the internet that your child might need for learning and homework and things like that, there's help at the school. So check your school's website. That's pretty important. Let the kids blow off some steam at night, okay? And try and have some fun with them. And that's that stay connected part. These are just some of the kind of things suggested by Scholastic to try to work with your kids when you're doing homework. And there, I got to the end really fast. I'm sorry for rushing that. But
Oh,
questions?
thank you.
Mhm.
Do you mind unsharing and I will share my
I will
screen,
do that.
please? Wonderful. Let me get back to this. All right, can you see my screen again?
Mhm.
Awesome. All right, so thank you both for presenting and being here today. We really appreciate it. And before we move into questions, I just want to let you guys know that there is an evaluation survey up on the screen. So if you can scan that and take that, that would be great. And the survey will also be emailed out. I have just a couple things that I had as questions, and I'm going to look and see if there's any in the question box too. Quickly, if I can get it to pop up again. Does anyone else see it in the chat? For some
I
reason,
don't
I think
see any questions in the Q&A.
not right now. Okay. Yeah, I think people have been using the chat versus the Q&A. I haven't seen any in the Q&A.
Okay.
So my question is, for purchasing helmets, do you have a place that you would recommend? I know you can get them basically at a lot of places, but I know Safe Kids has had them available in the past. Do you still offer those as an option?
Yes, we do. We do still sell helmets, and we also offer free helmet safety checks. So we'll come in, if you bring your child in, we'll have them fitted and make sure that that has that proper fitting for them too, as well.
Awesome. Okay. I did that when my kids were really young. And so I was just wondering if that was still something going on. So that's awesome.
Yes.
And then this is just something that sparked my thoughts when you were talking about the crosswalks. If someone does see a crosswalk that is not well marked, what have you told people to do? Would they just call the city, or like what's your
Yep.
recommendation in that?
I would recommend there are some funds I think available that we can there are agencies that can work that are working on that infrastructure piece of it. And so I would say be really loud. Talk to your school administration, talk to local city officials, and see what you can find as far as there are monies out there for fixing those infrastructural issues, and it just takes sometimes that squeaky wheel to
Mhm.
get that fixed. But yeah, I would definitely say advocate for your crosswalks for sure.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. And then for the the video overview, I would love to send that resource out to everyone. Sometimes sharing the video over Zoom, you don't get we didn't get to hear it, and so I would love to
I
send
see
that
that
out.
you said that wasn't.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'd love to send that out because
Yep.
it looked great.
Yeah, I really whipped through there, but I encourage you to check out the website.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. So if anything comes in later as a follow-up, I will let you guys know. But thank you so much for presenting and taking the time to be here. And thank you to everyone who could attend the presentation. To stay connected with us, you can follow on Healthy NODAC on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Foundation for Healthy North Dakota on LinkedIn. Also, to join the coalition, you can visit the link to stay aware of future webinars and updates on the foundation. And lastly, here's the QR code again to take. And thanks again, everyone, for joining, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Yeah,